The Mamiya 7 line of cameras is among the most highly coveted and sought after in all of film photography, and it has a price that reflects that. But is it all it's hyped up to be, and is it really worth the money? So, what is it that makes this camera so popular and expensive? Excluding the fact it's overhyped on the internet, what makes the Mamiya 7 great is that it's really the only compact interchangeable lens 6x7 camera in existence, the key word being compact. Shooting 6x7 is usually synonymous with big, heavy cameras. For example, the Pentax 6.7, when paired with a lens, weighs about 5 pounds. It looks like and functions like a 35mm SLR, except for the fact that it's almost comically large in comparison.
Now look, I have no hate for the Pentax 6.7. To be honest, it looks like an incredible camera. No hate for Kyle McDougall either. He is the GOAT. All I'm trying to do here is paint a picture of how large and heavy a typical 6x7 camera is, which is pretty much the rule across the board. But the Mamiya 7 is an exception to that rule.
Some people give the Mamiya 7 a hard time on its build quality, citing that it's plastic and not metal. And I'll admit, although it does feel pretty solid, the build quality is not stellar. But though it may not be able to double as a blunt object like some other cameras, this trade-off affords some remarkable weight saving, as well as the fact that the Mamiya 7 is a rangefinder. It doesn't need space for a large mirror, nor a large shutter since it utilizes leaf shutters that are built into each of its lenses. This means that though you're shooting the same size film as any other 6x7 camera, the Mamiya 7 is uncommonly small and light for its class. With the standard 80mm f4 lens attached, the whole kit weighs only 2.5 pounds, half that of the Pentax, and yet is only marginally more cumbersome than a well-equipped 35mm SLR.
The fact that the Mamiya 7 is able to save such a considerable amount of size and weight while still retaining its ability to shoot the same size frame makes it, in my humble opinion, the best 6x7 camera for travel. And ultimately, that's why I chose it over many other cameras that are just as capable. Its form factor. It's no more difficult to bring along than a normal camera, and it excels at shooting the things that I enjoy photographing most: landscapes. So this is the part of photography that the photos never really capture. The part where you're fighting mosquitoes at 5 o'clock in the morning. Go away! God! And yes, I tried bug spray. But in case you haven't noticed, we are in the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. It's a really beautiful morning despite these awful little animals. And yeah, so obviously anybody can take a photo with a 6x7 camera on a tripod. What does that say about the form factor? Absolutely nothing. But we're gonna do something in a little bit that's going to prove how the compact size and nature of the Mamiya is useful for travel. Yeah. Fuck off! So we're hiking through Cascade Canyon right now, and I'm carrying this camera, the tripod that it's on, food, water, sandwich, batteries, all sorts of things. And we're at maybe 8,000 feet of elevation, and that's kind of not an ideal scenario for bringing a 5-pound camera. But this thing is literally only 2.5 pounds. Having it here is not cumbersome at all, and it makes it really easy to capture images like this. Although I think I'm gonna need to change lenses for this one. So let's do that.
Pretty much all of the lenses in the Mamiya 7 catalog are superb, and some are considered among the finest optics ever made. I own the 65mm f4 and the 150mm f4.5, and can say that both live up to the reputation. My images have shown me no noticeable distortion, and have all been extremely sharp, except where user error is concerned.
Speaking of user errors, because this has a meter on the outside and it's not through the lens, there's no indication of whether or not you have your lens cap on when you look through the viewfinder, which means that I fired more blank black frames on this camera than ever before. So I guess I'm just not used to rangefinders. There's currently a bear just slightly off trail, so we're up here on this rockfall area, I guess, giving it some room, but it's also a pretty cool spot to shoot some photos of this canyon. Oh, the light is pretty harsh. It's like 10:30. Still really beautiful though.
I think one of the things that perpetuates this camera's popularity is the fact that we get drawn in by the beautiful images we see people make on it. We see how good it is at a subset of things, and it becomes easy to assume it is the end-all be-all. And for some applications, it may be. But this camera is definitely not, as some people have said, the best camera ever made. Cameras are tools, and each tool has a specific use. The Mamiya 7 performs excellently when shooting landscapes and traveling, but it's certainly got its drawbacks and weak spots as well. Its fastest shutter speed is only 1/500th of a second. The rangefinder is notorious for needing recalibration. Knock on wood. And while all of its lenses are optically excellent, the fastest of them only open to f4, and each have fairly uninspiring minimum focusing distances. This is obviously of little consequence when shooting landscapes, but important to note if you shoot a lot of portraiture or close-up work. And if it matters to you, it doesn't have a super loud and satisfying shutter sound that you can use to assert your dominance over the digital photographers in your proximity. But all things considered, it really is a pleasure to use. Something feels right about it. It's inspiring to hold and a joy to shoot.
So,
Will the Mamiya 7 make you a better photographer? No. Is it a great camera for specific uses and certain people? Yes. Is it worth it? Well, that's an entirely separate question and one that you have to answer for yourself. But if you want the opinion of a stranger on the internet, well, here we go. If you shoot much more than landscapes and don't mind a bigger kit, there are plenty of other options out there that are probably more capable. If you want to stay lightweight but also want higher quality images, then consider investing in a 645 camera or continue shooting 35mm and then just get higher quality scans. But if you're dead set on shooting 6x7 and the form factor is of the utmost importance and you can afford it, well, then maybe the Mamiya 7 is for you. But remember that only when you can do more with less can you do more with more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.